The city of Monahans, a small West Texas town known for its thriving oil and gas industry, home to just over 7,000 residents. It was here that Chris Sanders, a dedicated oil field worker from Basin, Texas, once built his life, until 2017, when he vanished without a trace, leaving behind a mystery that still haunts this quiet community.
There was never any kind of search done for my husband.
Who is Chris Sanders?
I just need some time to think.
And what events took place leading up to his disappearance?
Basin's Unsolved with Cameron Leal.
Christopher Lynn Sanders had lived in many places before eventually settling in Monahans for work. But to truly understand who Chris was, we have to tell the story from the beginning.
He was an adrenaline junkie. We've got it's called an intake tower down at the lake, and a bunch of his friends would go down and climb to the top of that and dive off into the lake. And where they were diving wasn't very deep. I mean, he would do stupid stuff on motorcycles. He loves Harley Davidson, and he had one after he got with his, this is putting it lightly, with his wife. He was just anything for an adrenaline rush. I mean, he's always been that way.
Chris was the oldest of 5, and like all kids, he was no stranger into getting in trouble. He
loves family, but Chris got involved in drugs like 15. There again, that's adrenaline, I guess, but he loves his brothers and sister, and he would fight the devil himself for all of them.
In his early years, Chris loved to spend time at his local fishing spot, and unfortunately, that was one of the last memories his mother has of him.
He has always loved to fish. That was his stress reliever, I guess. Actually, that's one of the last times I saw him. He was down at, we call it the bottoms. It's where one of the creeks run into the lake. And he called me and said, "What are you doing?" I said, "Nothing." He said, "Come down to the bottoms with me and just hang out while I fish." I spent probably 3 hours with him just watching him catch little bait stealers. It just tickled him to death. He was one of those that just took what he could get to get out of high school. He wanted to go to work. He quit in 11th grade, and he's so smart. He knows so much about everything.
Dropping out meant jumping straight into the workforce, something his mother says took a toll on him.
He drove an 18-wheeler for about 20 years. It was so hard on his body that he quit that and went to work doing local driving, and that kind of dried up. And that's when he wound up out at Monahans in the oil field, and he hated it. He was going to do whatever he had to do, take care of his kids and his bills.
According to Sandy, Chris's mother said he also struggled with mental health issues, which led to blood pressure and a bipolar diagnosis.
He finally got diagnosed, and they got him on, I never can remember the name of the medicine, but he did great on that. We really didn't connect the dots until he was older and out of high school. He was in a bar one night, and this guy was beating up on his wife or girlfriend or whatever. Chris didn't know the people or anything, and he stepped up and literally beat the crap out of this guy because he was hitting a woman. I mean, that's the way I raised him. You don't lay hands on a female. He was trying to save her life. If he would get mad, a lot of times he would black out, and that's when we started really paying attention to the mental part of it.
Over the years, Chris had a blended family, 2 kids, Colby and Ashlyn, from a previous relationship, and his wife, Angela Sanders, who had 2 kids of her own. His son, Colby, not only shares his father's looks, but also carries the weight of his absence. For his family, the pain of losing Chris is something they still feel every day.
Looks just like him. I mean, he was out here one Thanksgiving when we were in my kitchen, and I was at the stove, and he turned around to grab something from the stove. I said, "Did you wash your hands?" no, man, I forgot. So he turns around and washes his hands, and I turn around and just seeing his hands, girl. I had to walk out of the house. I mean, even his hands are like his dad's. It just, I don't know, it just hit me.
But this family came with its own struggles, and with Chris's disappearance with little to no answers, leaves the family members estranged. The night before Christopher vanished, he was surrounded by fellow workers at a gathering at the QPS Park in Monahans, sharing pizza, conversation, and for some, drinks. According to his wife, Angela Sanders, Chris stood apart, choosing to stay clear-headed. She recalls that night and the uneasy tension that lingered around him.
They had all got together the night before. Most of them were drinking. They were eating pizza and drinking beer or whatever they were drinking. But Chris wasn't drinking. Jason had offered him a beer 2 or 3 times, and he said no. He said it would not be a good thing for me to drink. I need to keep a clear head.
One of the key players who was at the gathering was the office supervisor, Harold Wayne, who just so happened to be Chris's uncle.
And he could tell that there was something bothering. And Chris couldn't stand this man because he wouldn't sign off to let him have all of his per diem. They were only paying him half of his per diem that he was supposed to be getting because he didn't get it approved by the office supervisor to bring an RV down there. But he got it approved by the one that hired him. This had been going on for 3 months, that he wasn't getting all of his money. And then that guy shows up at their get-together. His supervisor that had approved his bringing an RV was his uncle. That was Chris's uncle. That was Cody's dad.
And according to Angela, 3 weeks before this night, Chris and his uncle Harold Wayne had multiple conversations about him not receiving the correct amount of money.
Harold Wayne told him just to drop it. And they got into a little argument about it. And Harold Wayne told him, said, let me tell you something, boy, I got a bullet with your name on it, and I'll put it right between your eyes. Because Cody stepped between them that night. And Chris immediately walked out of the camper and called me and told me what had just happened.
This is the night Angela Sanders assumed was her husband's last night alive.
Well, I talked to him twice that night, and he was upset. I could tell he was upset. And I asked him several times what was wrong, and he said, I'm just tired. I'm just tired. And I said, well, tell him, give him your notice, and when you get off Wednesday, hook onto that RV and come home. He said, I'm not leaving without my money.
It was the morning after Christopher Saunders had seemingly vanished. Phone calls on phone calls, and every ring led straight to voicemail. Then finally, a break. Angela receives a call from Cody, Christopher's cousin, letting her know that Christopher had gone for a walk, saying he had a lot on his mind.
I finally got a hold of him, and he told me that Chris had got up that morning, said he had a lot on his mind. He got up that morning and went for a walk.
I just want to walk right now. I just need some time to think.
Then Jason, one of Chris's neighbors at the RV park, then shared with Cody what he thought he saw.
Jason had come over and knocked on his door to tell him that the alarm was going off on our Tahoe and that Chris had walked off, and he thought it was Chris that was walking over the overpass on the interstate. And he went over and got in the Tahoe, popped the hood, and unhooked the battery to stop the alarm, was what I was told. He said the RV was locked. He knocked on the door, but nobody came to the door. He just assumed that Chris was still on walkabout. He also said that when Jason told him this, he picked up his phone and he called Chris. And they talked, and he said, let me just come get you. And Chris told him, no, I got a lot of thinking I need to do. I just want to walk and try to clear my head. I'll talk to you after a while when I get back. Cody said he tried to call him back, and his phone went straight to voicemail, like Chris had turned it off. And I said, did you get in your truck and drive down the interstate in the direction in which Jason said he saw him walking? No, he said he talked to me after a while when he got back. And I said, why didn't you get up and go look for it and say, look, what's going on? Something. Why didn't you do something? Harold and Cody both knew that Chris was missing. Supposedly that he had walked off to go for a walk. Well, he never came back. So something's had to have happened.
And while Angela is looking to Chris's cousin and uncle for answers, Sandy tells me she was trying to piece it together for herself from information she received from Matthew Gillette, another man who was staying at that same RV park.
He's walked, but he's never, someone always knew where he was. I mean, he would go a couple of hours, or he might take his stuff and go out into the woods and camp for a day or two, but one or two or several of his friends would know exactly where he was at all times. Honestly, girl, I don't think it was Chris that walked off. I think something happened to Chris the night before. The guy that I talked to that saw the guy jumping or walking through the fence said he wasn't 100% sure it was Chris.
And yet they did nothing. They didn't call his mama, which I figured they would have, told, his wife, Harold's wife or Cody's mom, and she'd have called her sister and told her. They didn't tell nobody. They didn't even tell the office that Chris had went for a walk and had never showed back up.
2 days had gone by, and there were so many unanswered questions about what really happened that day. Angela's initial reaction after hearing her husband was missing was to drive down to Monahans, but after speaking with Cody on the phone, she gave it a second thought.
I was going to drive down there Sunday night after I talked to Cody and Chris still wasn't back. And Cody said, we're supposed to come home Wednesday. You need to just calm down. Y'all don't really have the extra money for you to be running back and forth out here. I was really upset. And I told him, okay, I'll wait. Well, when I got up, got Ashley off to school and everything, and started trying to call Cody, and Cody wouldn't answer his phone. Finally, around, 11 or 12 o'clock, I finally got a hold of Cody. And he told me, no, Chris, if he was there, he never answered the door. And I said, okay, well, then I'm coming out there because something's not right. And he said, no, just wait till I get home this evening and let me see if he's made it back to the RV park. And he said, when I get in this evening, I'll go over there and see if he's there, and I'll give you a call.
But that call never came.
So I started trying to call him, and I finally got him to answer about 6:30 or 7 or so, something like that. And he told me that he hadn't been in long and couldn't get Chris to answer the door. If he was in there, he's not answering the door, is what he said. I said, okay, that's it. I'm coming. I'm coming out there. He said, no. I said, no, don't, no me. You've no-noed me enough. I'm coming. Something's not right. I've got to come out there.
According to the incident report obtained by Christopher's mother, Sandy, the Monahans Police Department was dispatched to the QPS RV park at 2:46 a.m. The report states that Angela told officers Christopher had been under a lot of stress and walked off after a phone call with her. That conversation stemmed from his daughter Ashlyn, reaching out to him with questions he believed should have been directed to Angela instead. Phone records obtained by Christopher's mother show that the night before his disappearance, Christopher spoke with Ashlyn 6 times starting at 5 p.m. He also had 11 phone calls with Angela, the last one happening at 9:22 p.m. Hours later, Angela arrived at the RV park where officers were already on the scene.
It was around 3:30 in the morning when I got there. And they was in the RV park right behind me. A male officer and a female officer. 2 vehicles. Gave the male officer the key to the RV. The woman officer stayed outside with me.
The report stated that Angela allowed the male officer inside to check if Chris had been in there.
And the RV was not there. He looked all through it, in the refrigerator. Look. He said, I want you to come in here and look and tell me if there's anything. So he and I walked into the RV. Chris's medication was sitting on the table. I didn't see his wallet anywhere. His boots were not there. His bag and all his other clothes was there. The TV was on. I mean, there wasn't anything other than his boots and his wallet that wasn't there that it would be noticeable. You know what I mean?
The report stated that the RV air conditioner was running, as well as the television, as if someone was going to return. The report confirmed that Christopher's wallet and phone was gone, and his medications were left on the table. Angela further shared in the report that according to Cody, Sanders did not show up for work Monday, August 14th, and that Cody was the last person to talk to Sanders. Between 9 a.m. and noon, at exactly 11:51 a.m., Cody had asked Christopher to let him pick him up, but Christopher refused. Officers questioned Angela on if Chris had walked off like this in the past and responded with yes, sharing that Sanders was an addict and took methamphetamine a year and a half ago and left home walking into the woods. Officers and Angela then went to a different location in which Chris used to stay at.
They followed me over to the employee housing where the bunkhouses or something where the guys stay. They don't have an RV, and that's where Chris stayed the first 5 weeks that he was out there.
The report stated that when officers and Angela arrived, they found a for rent sign on the front with the RV air conditioner on, as well as a few lights. But officers did not see anyone inside from looking through the window.
Gas stations and stuff. Of course, I didn't see him anywhere. Stopped at because my husband's a truck driver. I thought, well, if he was walking home, he would be comfortable going into the lounges and stuff at truck stops. Every truck stop I think I seen, I stopped. Went in and looked.
After zero luck, Angela told the MPD officers that she wanted to file a missing persons report.
They told me, they said, do that for 72 hours. But it's a lie.
However, according to the report, officers explained to Angela that Sanders is an adult and that he has the right to leave without telling anyone.
All I could get told was, he's a 40-year-old man. If he wants to leave, that's his prerogative. And I said, you're not listening to me. He didn't want to leave me. And we fought too hard to get custody of his kids. He wouldn't just up and take off to go live a new life. His daughter's senior year, he's going to miss all that? No. He wouldn't listen.
Officers had explained to Angela that because Sanders missed work and was not responding to anyone, officers would take a report. One of the officers also asked Angela to give him a detailed written statement, letting officers know if Sanders did not show up to work the following morning. In quotes, it states, Angela took the statement forms and said she would fill them out and contact the police department in reference to Sanders showing up to work this morning. It should be noted that Angela never contacted the police department to let officers know if Sanders went to work, nor did she fill out the statement forms. Nothing further. And after reaching out to Monahans Police Department on multiple attempts regarding Chris's case, they did not respond to my requests.
Do you know that typically when a person goes missing, the police are supposed to do a 2-mile radius ground search? There was never any kind of search done for my husband.
Many TV outlets, including News West 9 and NBC News, podcasters, and different organizations have wrote on Christopher Sanders, and yet, no promising information has been revealed regarding his disappearance. When requested information from the Texas Department of Public Safety, they stated that my requested information was exempt from disclosure, and DPS will continue to withhold that requested information. All there is left is the memories Christopher has left his friends and family to remember. Friends like Mickey Bean, a longtime friend since high school who is holding on to hope with her own perspective of the story.
He was always taken up for us. He was always there to just handle anything. His wedding was hilarious. Singing with him probably is one of my best memories. What I appreciated about him the most was when he was on the road, when he was driving the truck. If he was ever in San Antonio, my oldest son, Spencer, was a bartender and a singer in a metal band down there, and he would always go and make sure that he would always check on him. He would tell me when he was going down there. He would pop in, check on Spencer, make sure everything was okay, he had everything he needed, and always call and make sure that I knew that he was okay and that Chris had his back.
And when asked how she felt about Christopher going missing, she only had one word to describe how she felt about the situation.
Anger. I was angry. I was angry that Sandy didn't find out sooner. I was angry that something wasn't done sooner. I was angry that there was a part of me that hoped that he had just walked off, before he started taking his medicines and stuff. And, when he was a lot younger, that's what he did. He would take a walk in the woods, or he'd walk away or walk off. And we always knew, even if he was gone a few days, my little brother always knew where he was.
For his family, the passing years have been filled with a mix of hope, frustration, and heartbreak, wondering if Chris left on his own or if something more sinister happened.
There was a part of me that hoped and prayed that, he'd just done something like that. And that made me mad, because he should know that we'd have been worried by then. By the time we found out he was gone, it had been days. And so I really had to fight being angry at him.
Girl, I just want to find my son or his remains and be able to bring him home and give him the respect that he has not received. It's so frustrating. I know if Chris were able, he would call or get word to me or his kids. Knowing that he can't, for whatever reason, in my mama heart, I still believe he's alive.